We laugh.
Ooh, we laugh.
We doing it.
We doing it.
Something. Living.
I love it. All right. Welcome to Austin, Texas, y'all. I'm here. I just went to ACL. Forgive me for my voice. I was sober and I rallied for 3 freaking days. And I'm a trooper. So we have Kevin Crenshaw in the studio, which I was like dying laughing because I'm Croshaw. And every single person either spells it wrong or says Jenn Crenshaw. So
I can imagine.
All right.
Yeah.
So you are known as the Heart Guy on Instagram.
I am.
And also your alter ego, the Vibe Daddy.
I am.
Okay, so I want to know who the Heart Guy is, and then I want to know who the Vibe Daddy
is.
Vibe
Okay,
Daddy.
I love it. I haven't talked about the Vibe Daddy on the podcast
I want to hear
before,
about
so
really.
we get to drop in about that.
Daddy.
So the Heart Guy, I help people in their love life, and specifically powerful women. So women who are entrepreneurial, successful, driven women in their love life, how they can also lead a man to show up for them.
Okay.
So there's nuanced like things like maybe you make all the money and he doesn't, and how does that affect the dynamic, and how can he show up to provide still just with his energy in a different way, and how can you then evoke that without being mothering or controlling or nagging him. So there's a lot of that dynamic that I feed into that, and with the Heart Guy, and it's multifaceted. There's so much there, which we can talk more about. And then the Vibe Daddy is my DJ name. And
it's a DJ name.
It's DJ. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So how long have you been a DJ?
Well, I was a group fitness instructor for quite a while. And I would always curate playlists for my classes, and everybody would be like, oh my God, I love your playlist. Like, can you send it to me? Yeah. And then I find myself at a men's workout here in Austin and bringing my giant speaker and playing music live. And somebody was like, you're good at this. Like, you want to do this for my retreat? I'm like, yeah,
absolutely.
Sure. Didn't know shit about fuck when it came to like putting stuff together.
No way.
I just knew how to play the right music for the right vibe.
Okay.
And so I like do it, and it was amazing. And then people found out that I was doing that, and then they're like, oh, can you DJ my birthday party? I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it. I'd show up, and I'm not even using a DJ controller. I'm basically playing music on Spotify in real time, and just picking the songs based on the vibe. And then this one party, it was so crazy because everybody was dancing in my set. The whole party was hype. And then I got off, and that like headliner DJ went on, and nobody was dancing. And everybody was coming up to me like, how long you been DJing? Oh my God, can you go back on? And I'm like, this is a thing now. And so that was the birth of the Vibe Daddy. And then I like launched it officially in beginning of March for my birthday party.
Fun.
And ever since then, it's been fun.
Okay. I love it. So the Heart Guy, back to the Heart Guy. So your content's focused on like helping women, especially like rebuild trust with men. Yeah.
It's rebuilding trust with men, but also trusting in themselves in a new way, trusting in God in a different way, trusting in their man, and actually what that looks like from a feminine leadership standpoint. There's blind trust, which is like, I trust you. And then there's all like active trust, which is something that I talk about in my courses.
Okay. I love it. So how did you get into that?
That's a whole story. I just saw my whole life flash before my eyes, literally. I mean, my ex-fiance left me, put me in a suicidal depression. 2 relationships after her ended because they cheated on me.
Okay.
I was like, what the actual fuck is going on?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I'm a people pleaser, codependent, nice guy with no backbone. Got it. So then I was doing my own work, and was deep in studies of masculine and feminine energy. A friend that was a coworker of mine at the gym was like struggling in his relationship. He knew I was reading books about it all the time. Yeah. He's like, hey, can I just like take you out to dinner? I have some questions. And came back and was like, dude, that's changed my marriage. Like, thank you. And I was like, I could do this. I was like 22 at the time or something. Yeah. So I was like, I'm too young. I had all the excuses, but I just kept on my path. I had an accidental overdose on plant medicine that really woke me up in a lot of ways and deepened my presence in my body, but also like my work that I do with clients. And so it became from like healing from a breakup and healing codependency to really like healing relational trauma. And now the next evolution of that is what I've been talking about recently, which is all the stuff around trust. And it's all infused in there.
Well, and I saw a clip that I loved, and I totally agree with this. You said that get into a relationship is the most spiritually, I don't know what you said the right word, but it was basically it's more powerful spiritually than doing like a plant medicine journey or any of that. And I agree with that because it's like a mirror. But why do you say that?
Because our relationships show us we're in intimacy. And when you're in the realm of intimacy, you're in the house of intimacy, all of your stuff gets to be shown and loved. That's the opportunity for it, or transmuted or evolved or matured or whatever the thing is. And so it's in that level of safety that's provided in a relationship, or a lack of safety, and you're playing out a pattern, right? Whatever it is, that shows us ourselves. It's like we're put in the relationship. It has nothing to do with the other person spiritually, and it's all about where you're showing up and how you're showing up in the dynamic and what's triggering you, what feels safe for you, all the things. And that's where we're all walking each other home.
Yeah, we're walking each other home.
That person is the perfect match for your journey at that time to help you walk you home.
Wow, I love that.
And I think looking at, and this is how I coach my clients, whether the relationship works out or not, if you can just focus on what's going to open me more to love, what's going to mature me more in this moment.
Yeah.
How can I work on being the best man or woman that I can be for this relationship, or for a relationship, period? Can I evolve in more love, more compassion? Can I hold this differently than I've ever held it before? Right? Because for a lot of people, they go from maybe playing the victim to boss babe, boss mode, and you get all this surge of like, I know who the fuck I am, and I know what I want, and these are my standards, and take it or leave it. And then you enter into a relationship where all of a sudden it becomes a 3-legged race.
Right.
And you're not the only one anymore.
Yes.
So how do you take that power and infuse it into a collaborative team effort?
Right. And I love that what you said, like this boss babe, because so I came from a really conservative background. So I was like, oh, like, don't tell me I need to stay home with the kids and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm going to create a career. And I like boss bitched really hard. And then I was like, then I got out of a really long-term relationship, and I'm like out in these streets and I'm trying to date. And I'm like, oh, like I want to be in my feminine energy. Like I want to step back and I want to like let the man lead. But I'm so much in my masculine in my career that sometimes it's tough to like figure out that balance. So how is women, like a powerful woman who is a lot of times in their masculine as far as a career, like we have to be, you know, how can they step back and let their man lead? And you were talking about like men need 3 things to lead, I think. 5. 5?
There's a master class coming on that here soon.
Can you even reveal that, the 5?
Maybe. We'll get there. You asked me another question, though. I want to answer that.
All
so the reason I'm doing this master class is because there's a lot of bullshit out there on social media, in my opinion, about relationships. Part of it being the attachment styles, some of it being the ways in which masculine and feminine energy is being taught. Like you even just saying like, oh, I'm in my masculine and I want to dissolve into my feminine, and then it almost judges the masculine when you're in it.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it's like, that's an aspect of you. It doesn't need to be bad.
Okay.
It doesn't need to get in the way. And I love, one of my friends mentioned this, of like, focus on what makes you come alive.
I love that.
That's your natural essence. If you're trying to be feminine, or you're trying to shift into your feminine to let him lead, you're focused on the actions and not the spirit in which you're coming from.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's important to just like see that. And how do you create that space is in that aliveness. I know many powerful women who are very fucking powerful and masculine as fuck in their career, and then they get around their man and it's like brain off, and they can shift that, and that they're not, in my opinion, they're not in their head thinking, okay, I get to be feminine now.
Right. It just happens.
It happens because she trusts him, and she trusts his leadership fully of take me anywhere, take me wherever. Yeah. I'll go wherever you go.
Right.
And it takes a level of surrender of your own masculine to be able to do that. Yeah. It's like, this is the realm in which I'm going to show up in my masculine, and then in all the other stuff, take it away. I don't want to. Right. But you have to stop guarding your heart, and whether it's past experiences, whether it's parents or exes, things that have happened, if those aren't resolved, your insecurities are going to show up and lead the relationship. And then all of the stuff of you trying to improve yourself is coming from insecurity. So that you can be enough, so you can get it right, so you can be in the right energy. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's the same consciousness that created self-abandonment when you were 2.
Yeah.
It's like, who do I have to be in order to get love? We're doing the same fucking thing as a culture right now in the healing space. Who do I have to be in order to get love? Oh, I need to be more feminine.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
Wow.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's kind of mind blowing actually when you put it that way.
And so that's, I mentioned the masterclass. That's like 2 fucking hours of that stuff. And I'm very excited to be putting that
When
together.
is that happening?
On the 17th.
Okay, sweet. So
I don't know if this is going to be out.
It won't be out yet, but I'll put it in the show notes for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
You need to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Put it. Yeah. It's going to be profound. I'm sharing the 5 things that a man needs in order to lead. And like a man, like in his life, he needs these 5 things in order to show up and lead. And if he doesn't have these things in his life, he's not leading for himself. He's not leading, like the energy of leading, not necessarily what he's doing, what he's not doing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And then there's one way that you can show up to evoke it and inspire it. And the only one thing you got to do. And then
are you going to reveal the one thing? Are you going
to go to the masterclass?
Okay. I love it.
But then there's a bajillion ways you can sabotage it and not do that one thing, right? So I talk about
okay, good. Okay.
And I give hacks and like real tangible things and ways you can show up, because a lot of it is embodiment work. And so you have to, it's not like do this and then, but I will be sharing some stuff that's not mainstream. There's a lot of stuff out there. Because here's the thing. I interviewed 30 plus women about this before I started creating it.
Yeah.
And they're confused.
Absolutely.
They're frustrated.
It's the internet. There's both like, do this, do that, be nonchalant, like play game, like, and you're just like, can I just show up authentic?
Right.
Like,
right. And so it's cutting through the noise of all of that. And what I'm going to be sharing is really practical stuff from my own experience, having not claimed before and having claimed, but from the wrong energy, from my insecurities, which is a different thing. So I, seeing my life, and then also the almost 10 years now of clientele that I've had working with couples and working with women, and then just my research as well. And it's not anything that I'm seeing out there online, which is fun.
Okay, that's so exciting. I'm going to sign up.
Heck yeah.
Okay, so I know there's a lot of noise on the internet. Do you believe in the attachment styles that get thrown around? Do you believe in that?
Yes and no, but it's taken to the extreme.
Right.
Right. And it's like, you have an attachment style, a different attachment style with every human you ever interact with.
No, I agree with that.
Right. So
sure.
like
certain people bring out different things in you. Yep.
And do you have to be secure all fucking time around everybody? Like, cool, that'd be the goal, but we're human.
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm experiencing a little bit of anxiety right now. That doesn't mean you're anxious attached and he's avoidant, and then you got to go through this karmic breaking cycle and he's not the one, and like, you know what I mean?
Yes. It's
like,
so crazy.
oh my God, maybe you're just having some natural human anxiety. Or a little bit of doubt. Okay.
Yeah.
Or you're pulling back a little bit because you need whatever the fuck. Like, when you label it something, you lock it into that consciousness, and it has to stay that thing. Right. So it's like saying I am depressed versus I'm feeling depressed. It's a slight difference, right? So it's the same thing, but with the attachment styles.
Okay. You do talk about like rebuilding trust in women to create a secure attachment.
Essentially, yeah.
So how does someone, like, knowing in past experiences, like, oh, that person brought out like this side of me, how can I, before I enter another relationship, be more secure? Do you have any tips for women on that?
I don't like your question because
okay, tell me, hit me.
You don't have to be healed in order to get into the right relationship.
I agree.
So yes, work on your shit, and you don't have to be there.
Right.
Because guess what? You're going to get there, and then you're what you think is there. And then all of a sudden you get into the dojo of the relationship and all hell breaks loose, and there's all your patterns again.
Right.
So I'll say this. Are you familiar with parts work?
No, actually.
There's parts of us. Like you have an inner child, and you have an inner adult, or a inner critic is another one, right? So we have parts of us that get stuck in time when their needs aren't met.
Okay.
Or we abandon them.
Yeah.
And if there's a part of you that's stuck in time because your dad never paid attention to you growing up, or you didn't get the attention you wanted from him,
right,
and you have this abandonment trauma, that part is going to call the shots in your love life. So it's going to make the scene the same. It's going to attract men who are similar, so that you can finally win and get the attention of that. Like, see, I can finally be enough. Let me go at it again.
Yeah.
Type of a thing. So what the trick is, and this is what I do with my one-on-one clients and what I'm excited to do in some offerings in the future in a group setting, which I'm also very excited about, is you have completion for those parts that are stuck in time that are creating the addiction.
Okay.
To the pattern.
Yeah.
And it's creating the pattern in the first place. So then all of a sudden, when that happens, that part matures to the present moment. You could say healed the trauma, whatever. Yes, sometimes it's emoting it out of your system, but other times it's literally just it's different. Anyway, it's spiritual, and when that happens, what you're attracted to changes. Literally, like your eyes for things shift.
Interesting.
Because you're not looking for redemption for something that happened with an ex or whatever.
Right. Okay.
Right. So that's the biggest thing. And healing isn't always cathartic. Healing, it doesn't always have to be that. It's also not absolutely not mental. So more understanding of something won't change it. And that's one of the biggest things. Most of my career, I was helping women in breaking codependency and toxic cycles that are happening in their love life. And that, I can't tell you, I've probably talked to thousands of people who could explain exactly what was happening to me.
Okay.
And then they're still fucking frustrated and they're still in it. And it's like, you can't understand your way out of a feeling problem. And you can't
understand your way out of a feeling problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what needs to be felt, what part of you needs to be expressed. And expression is a human need, which isn't talked about often, but there's a part of you that isn't being expressed, that's expressing itself, finding an expression for itself in the patterns of emotionally unavailable men or the similar thing, whatever it is. So that's probably the biggest thing that I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the psychology of a male. Just a man.
I love it.
In general. Like what
well, we think differently than you.
Yes. It's fascinating to me that I'm like, wait, so we're like supposed to be together? No, like really.
Yeah.
And I've made jokes like, I wish I was a lesbian. I'm unfortunately not, because I think women are so rad and I have the best experiences with women. And I'm like, damn it. I like men, but like, why? Why are we supposed to be together? Because our brains are so different.
Our brains are different. And I think that's why we're supposed to be together.
All right. It's like figuring it out and working together.
Walking each other home.
Walking each other home. That's so beautiful. I love that.
It's the other, it's the other piece that we can't have, that we can't fully be, that we can't fully understand and shouldn't want to, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We get to appreciate.
What do we need to know as women about the male brain?
Well, he focuses on one thing at a time.
Okay, one thing at a time. All right.
What he's focused on, most men.
Yes.
Women have what's called diffused awareness, and this was made popular by Alison Armstrong's work, which means you can kind of multitask and think about a lot of different things all at once and kind of hold it all.
Yeah.
A man's doing one job and one job well.
Yes.
So if he's focused on something and you come around and try to say something, he has to take time to shift his presence to you.
Got it.
Right. Men also have transition time is very important. Like get out of the car and then you sit down at the restaurant and then you're like playing around with your drink and your forks and then it can be present with you. Like he needs to orient.
Transition period.
Transition, right? I'll also say culturally, men aren't as articulate in their emotional capacity as women are.
Right.
And that's many reasons. We can get into that later. But I think it's just important for women to know that a man needs time to open up emotionally, like a woman needs time to open up physically.
I was literally going to say that because I saw your post on that. Yes.
And I think if you can foreplay his emotional openness.
Okay.
Instead of, why the fuck aren't you just being open with me? You must be hiding something. Whatever it is, right?
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like giving him space and time for that, and trust that in the right time he'll be open in the right ways.
How does one foreplay with that?
I'm actually writing about that right now. That's going to go into the masterclass. Okay. Yeah, but one of the biggest ways it's the energy of no matter what you say, I'm here.
Like I got you.
No matter what you say. Obviously, there's non-negotiables, and that would mean the ending of the relationship or whatever.
Right.
And I'm here.
Right.
It's safe. Tell me anything. What's going on? That level of that you can hold for in an energetic way, it makes it safe to open up. Right.
And so you talk about like men focus on one thing. So like obviously we want a man to be a provider, and I really don't mean money. I actually don't. I
mean, what do you mean by that?
I mean a more of like an emotional safety. Like to me, a provider is it's not necessarily about the money. It's a drive. I obviously want someone to have drive, but money really doesn't. I think we get a bad rap, and maybe we do. Like most women want, like, well, you know, you have to make this amount. I actually don't, but maybe that's because I work and I make my own money.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I just feel like emotional safety. But you say that they can only focus on one thing. So obviously, we love as a provider for them to be focused on their career and the thing that makes them going, right? So how do they have time to focus on a relationship too? Because I think a
Well,
lot
it's
of
not
girls,
all or nothing.
right? Okay,
Is what
there's
I'm
like balance.
so
Yeah,
yeah. And if he's in an all or nothing season in his life, he's gonna have to fuck around and find out.
yeah,
That ain't life.
right.
I know many men who can hold a lot of different things and
Okay,
have a successful career and a successful relationship, and they're fit and healthy, and you can do that. When I'm saying focus on one thing at a time, I literally mean moment to moment.
got it.
I'm not
Okay,
necessarily meaning in the scheme of his life.
right.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's different.
okay. So obviously, a man needs more time for emotional. We need more time for physical. How can men provide emotional safety? Because I think, like I told you, like I got married as a child and I got divorced. Like I was in a really long-term relationship, but I got married as a child. So like I didn't really date, you know? So now that I'm out in these streets like a stray cat, trying to figure it out, it's so scary. And I was telling you, like, I haven't really felt a lot of men provide emotional safety in some of the dating experiences that I've had. I've had a couple good ones, but I would say for the majority, I'm like, I just don't feel safe or whatever. So how does a man provide that for a woman and then a woman provide, like you said, a woman's like, I got you. How can a man provide that emotional safety?
He's either going to be a taker of your energy or a giver to it.
Taker or giver? Okay.
Is he focused on himself and what he wants, or is he overflowing and giving and
Love that.
nurturing?
I think it's a really beautiful thing to keep in mind when you're starting to date.
It's the biggest thing that you, as women, I think you should be discerning of.
Repeat that one more time because that was really profound.
He's either going to be taking your energy or giving to it.
Got it.
His essence, his spirit, his energy. And it's important to note which one he is, where his come from. And he can, you know, that it's the whole saying, new level, new devil. He could be very eclectic with how he presents in love bombing or whatever the heck it is, right?
Yeah.
You'll know in your body if you really slow down. Love bombing works because it speaks to insecurity. You're in the part of you that wasn't chosen finally is fully fucking chosen, and then all of a sudden, wait a second, there's more that I actually care about than just this, right, or whatever it is, or the part of you that got ignored. All of a sudden, you're getting poured and admired and cherished and loved, and so it attracts to the polar opposite of your insecurity, right. But if you see past all that stuff, is he giving to your essence, or is he validating your invalidating an insecurity? It's totally different.
Absolutely.
And
so learning to discern that.
Yeah. And then also I think one of the biggest things that is like, has he tamed his sexual energy?
Okay. So talk about that.
Yeah. If a man hasn't tamed his sexual energy, he's just going to go after anything that he wants to fuck. Right.
Yeah.
If he, and what I see for most men, it's either they do that or they go internal with it, and it's all, whether it's often porn or they beat themselves up internally, or no, I can't do that, and they turn into a nice guy, or they get low what's the word I'm looking for? Low confidence, right? Where it's, I think if a man leads with safety first, and not trying to make women feel safe, but just like, no, I'm not going to, why the fuck would I cross that line?
Right. I love
and
that.
To the guys listening.
Yes, please.
Act as if you're married and you have a daughter.
Act as if you're married and have a daughter. Yep.
You would probably behave different in your dating life. And I'll leave that.
Because like you said, it takes like, I think a lot of women we have our guard up, like, you know, like
that makes sense.
We want to be sexual and we want to have intimacy like that. But I think like we've dealt with a lot of men that come at us with that right away. And so we're just like, whoa, you know? So I love that, like going slower, providing safety. And then that allows a woman to feel safe and open up and things like that.
Where are his eyes on?
What are his eyes on?
His spiritual eyes.
Can you explain what spiritual eyes?
Where's this focus? Is he trying to get in your pants or in your heart? Like, I don't know how else to put that. You know, like, what is he focused on?
Okay.
And it's going to take some time to figure it out.
So that's what I was just going to say. Yeah. So going slow in relationships.
You'll learn a lot about somebody when they don't get what they want.
Okay. I totally agree with that.
I think the whole world would be better if women actually waited to have sex and raise the standards for men. Then all of a sudden, all the men would start to do inner work.
Absolutely. Inner work, please. So do you have like a time frame? That's the thing too with all this information. It's like you wait till the third day.
There's so much nuance to this. I know people who have met and it was fireworks and had sex on the first encounter within 24 hours, and now they're married with kids and they love, like, it's what the fuck? Yeah. I also know people that have waited till marriage. You know what I mean? And so there are no rules to this, and there's so much nuance, which is why I am talking to the spirit of things. It's not about what you're doing, what you're not doing, or the attachment style to this, the father wound trauma, that stuff those are tools, but what's the energy and the come from of it? And I think if you can put the focus on the spiritual component of that, your come from with yourself and who you're bringing to the relationship, and then also his come from, and you have some discernment on that, that's what actually makes it work.
Right. All right. I love that. So as I've gotten out in the streets the last couple of years, there's something wrong. Like, I think on both parties. I from the female perspective, I'm always like, are men okay? But I obviously know, like, women, no one is really okay. But I have noticed a shift in, like, trying to date. I feel like men aren't necessarily, and maybe this is just stuff, my shit, and I'm just attracting that. But I have felt like men aren't really pursuing anymore and, like, chasing, like, that kind of energy. I feel like, and I've tried to step back, but have you noticed that? Like, I'm
not on the streets, so I
won't say that.
I'm not out on the streets. I'm not on dating apps. I'm like, it'll happen when it happens.
I'm not on dating apps either, but I'm just saying, like, in dating general, like,
that's, early in my career, I was like, I'm not a dating coach and I'm not a pickup artist, so I ain't doing that. I'm just going to focus on making a relationship work, and working on yourself, So, but to talk about what you're talking about, at large, we're so off kilter.
Do you think it's the internet, social media, dating apps? Like, what do you think?
It's the internet. It's the attack on our bodies with our hormones getting disrupted from both genders.
Yeah.
It's culture and society and how we grew up. And I think it's also, this is probably going to ruffle some feathers, but it's also well-intended mothers that are trying to raise young boys into men, which is basically they're raising them to be like the guy who hurt them wasn't. And they end up neutering the development of that child. Okay. And then you have a man who's very disconnected from his masculinity. Okay. Because part of masculinity means to be dangerous.
Oh, okay.
And if you haven't wielded that part of you and you have access to that part of you, you're going to be a nice guy like I was.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's the driven, the thing that you're talking about, the drive. And join the masterclass. I'll be talking about
I love that. I love that.
Because those are the 5 things that he needs. If he's not in, one of them is his relationship with his anger and his aggressive side. Yeah. Men need to have access to that. Essentially, it's being in his body. But when it comes to leadership and pursuing someone, that all is not, you don't have to do it in an angry fashion, but it's the same energy of anger. Right. And passion. And I'm going to fucking do this thing. Yeah. Right. Right. And that's what evokes the courage. Right. And if he can't wield his anger in a healthy way, he's either beating himself up or he's spewing on everybody. Yeah. It's not a man who can lead. Right. And so he's not going to pursue. Right. And so that's, I think, what you're talking about. But then there's also, like, again, like I was talking about with hormones imbalances and testosterone levels being super low. And there's so much to this. Okay. But that's one of the things. So I know you talked about, like, you're never fully healed, but working through your shit is really important before entering a relationship, right? Or do you feel like you can work through your work together? Yeah. Yeah. And the work doesn't end, so you don't have to be there. Right. There is right here. Yeah. You know, it's like we do so much work thinking that when we've done the work, then we'll be enough. But you forget to realize that you're enough even as you're doing the work.
I love it. Like self-acceptance in all aspects.
Yeah. There's so much conversation, and I think this is ties into the entrepreneurial space a little bit of like being worthy of making X amount of money, or being worthy of the business, or being worthy to receive. And it's like that game is a game, and you're going to keep playing it. And if you want to do that, you can. But what if you're just fucking alive? And of course, you're worthy of love.
It's just so simple when you say it.
You don't have to. You inherently have worth, and you're
absolutely
you as you are, perfectly as you are a match for somebody. If you don't like what you're matching to, change you.
Change the vibration, the frequency. So how does one who has had, like, obviously they're like, I'm in a relationship, or I keep getting the same thing. Obviously that's something that they need to fix in themselves to get a different vibration frequency. What's the first thing you would tell someone to do?
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier with the parts of us.
Yes.
Right? A part is stuck in time, and figuring that out. So, I would say getting curious about what's in that for you. Like bring your awareness to that instead of the frustration of it happening. Can you get curious about why would God put you in the same test over and over again? Well, because you're failing it. So what are you not learning spiritually, or what within you is not maturing? Where can you grow? What do you need to let go of? What do you need to grow more into?
Yeah.
And it's hard to see it sometimes by yourself, which is why people come to me and hire me, because it like you can't see the picture while you're in the frame. It's hard.
Right. Do you do mostly work with couples or individuals?
Mostly individuals.
I love that.
Mostly work with individuals. And I love couple work when they're devoted. Yeah.
That's incredible. So, have you always, you said you started with some relationships that you just had to fix yourself first. Mm-hmm. How did you go about doing that? And what sparked, obviously that sparked everything.
Oh, it was what the fuck is going on, and the curiosity of that. And I started reading the books, and then I started getting the awareness, and then I really started deepening in the work within myself, but then patterns kept showing up. And so I speak a lot from my experience.
Which I think, is beautiful, and it's relatable, and it helps you connect with other people.
Yeah. And then the more that I've done embodiment work, the more that I've done parts work, the more that I've come home to myself, and also the more that I've grown closer to God, the more my patterns aren't showing up anymore.
I love it. Have you always had a relationship with God?
Grew up in the church, and then left at high school, went New Age for 10 years, and last year actually went back to the church, and have recently had a total reclamation of my heart with God.
That. So what brought you back?
A breakup.
I love that.
And I was like, I have reached the end of myself. I have tried to do things my way for 10 years, and it led me suicidal with an overdose, broken heart, broken bank account, broken business. There's got to be something else.
Right.
And, and I had so many people looking up to me of like, oh, like you're so capable, and you're so this and that. It wasn't landing. And I'm like, there is something missing. And, I was blessed to be surrounded by a bunch of people who were going to church, and gratefully to have found a church first try of like, oh wow, I love this church, and started hearing the messages differently, slowly.
I love
and that. Started revisiting that aspect of my life. And the more that I did that, and the more that I fell into the word, then I got baptized, then my own relationship dynamic stuff was transforming, through my relationship with God. And that's how I'm able to even see like what I'm talking about of like the spirit of it all. Because you can focus on the tools all day long. But ultimately it's like, what's the energy and the spirit behind it all?
Right.
And they come from of that, and looking at the fruit of the spirit and the fruit of a thing.
Yeah.
The fruit of a person in your life, the fruit of a person and how they are in their own lives. Like having that level of discernment in the eyes for that is what I think is missing in a lot of the talk of relationship, because it's not a 1, 2, 3 step process. It takes a lot of refinement of your heart. It takes trust. It takes a connection to yourself, a connection to God, and unlearning all of the beliefs and conditioning you have about men.
Yes. Yes.
So that's the process.
Yes. So how does one, I mean, obviously taking your courses, and like, how does one start to get rid of all those beliefs that maybe even subconsciously that girls have about men.
I mean, take my courses,
Yeah.
first off. And do you like believing would you rather be right or in love?
Ugh, I love that. Would you rather be right or in love? Yeah.
You can hold on so tightly to your beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And is it serving you? Are you connected or are you safe? Something to think about. And what belief do you have? Is that actually true that there are no good men left? Is it actually true that you're not worthy? Like, do you absolutely know that you can know that? Like, no. Oh, this is a made up belief that I have. Okay, interesting. Do I want to believe it? Because you have a say in the matter. You don't have to believe it if you don't want to believe it.
Right.
Even no matter, and this is the biggest thing, no matter what your dating history has been like, or your relationship history has been like, or no matter what you see on the streets, what you see on the dating apps.
Yeah.
You're only looking for one person.
Yes. And I think that's very key. Like sometimes you get so discouraged and you're like, it is a numbers game. You are looking for one person.
Let it discourage you from all the things that you're seeing. There is a match for you right now, whether that's your forever person or your right now person. It's up to God. But there's a match for you, and focus on that. Focus on what you want, not what you don't. And it's so hard because a lot of what you see is what you don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, keep the faith, keep working on yourself. And it's not a game of hide and seek. I think some people need to hear that.
Ooh, okay. It's not a game of hide and seek. Explain that. Go deeper on that.
Is your spirit, oh, where are they? Where are they? Are they here? I'm going to go here and position myself and do all the stuff so that they can find me and like.
Do you feel like that's chasing energy and you're going to repel that?
That's like Instagram lingo.
You're right.
Like, yes and no.
Yeah.
I know people who have done that and they met their person.
I know. Like, so it's more of just like trust in divine timing.
Yes.
Be a beautiful human, work on yourself, and just let it.
Follow your aliveness, fill your cup, and somebody's going to be walking that path too. And it'll be like, oh, hey.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. You know, and you don't have to be fully there. You can also find it together.
Yes.
I have it. So on my podcast, I interview couples who've been together for over a decade.
Okay.
The stories of how they met, there's zero commonalities. Zero.
Really? So it's just this beautiful, like special divine, almost like.
It is all unique. What I am finding is there's a few things that they have in common that they've developed throughout the relationship to make it last.
Okay.
But, going through infidelity, going through time apart, going through death together of family, raising kids, a lot of kids for one of them injured physically, like things change in the dynamic in that. And I'm learning what are the ingredients to make that stuff work. But when it comes to like finding the person, it is an orchestrated by God thing.
I love it.
And I think if we can just trust that God's will is happening right now.
Yeah.
Right now. Even if it's not your preference, it's happening.
Right.
And trust that over what you think you want. Can you surrender? It's another quote of mine. Can you surrender what you think you want for what God knows you need?
I love that. Yeah.
It's like,
I think that's one of the biggest, hardest things is that just blind trust. How does someone get deeper into their trust? Like, I can trust in divine timing. I trust in God's plan. Like, how does someone that's like,
Well, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because that's a lifelong study and it's what I'm devoting my life to.
Yeah.
Is to helping more people trust.
Yeah.
And trust in the right thing, not blind trust, not full surrender and just take me by the wind. Because you can get lost in those spaces, but a trust that is full of faith and hope and active trust. It's different.
Yeah. Well, what I'm hearing, and just tell me if I'm wrong, I love it. Like, it's so much more simple when you speak about it. You're like, fill your cup, do what makes you come alive.
Yeah.
Focus on that. Heal your shit as much as you can. Keep working, but do what makes you feel alive.
Right. And what makes you feel alive isn't what makes you feel happy. It isn't what makes you feel blissed out. It isn't even like, because think about it. Somebody follows the pursuit of happiness, then they get addicted to drugs or sex or whatever the thing is. You see the fruit of those things don't create happiness. So if you want to focus on what I'm saying, come alive, it's your spirit. Can you free your spirit from the need to seek happiness? Can you free your spirit to have peace and joy? And how do you find those things in not just doing what makes me happy?
Right.
Different energy.
Wow. Okay. And then how does one like deepen their relationship to God? Because I think it's really tough. And I personally like, I think people like God and religion, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
There's a lot there.
And there's a lot of trauma sometimes related to that. Like I grew up in a very conservative religion, and it's been interesting because I stepped away from that religion. And I kind of was like, ugh,
Yeah.
you know, and then I was hit with some really hard things at the beginning of the year. And it was, eventually it's going to be the best thing that's ever happened to me. But it put my back against a wall. And I was like, at this point, there's nothing I can do other than get down on my knees and pray and beg for help and sometimes you have to get there. And I was like, you know what? I do need God. And like, it's a beautiful thing to trust in a higher power. But I think God sometimes, if people are like, because of religious, like what would you suggest to someone who has gone through that religion, they have hangups about God? Was that a huge question?
Yeah. I would say don't let religion get in the way of a relationship. Of actually knowing what a spirit is like.
Yeah, I love that.
Religion is full of people, and people tend to fuck things up.
Absolutely.
So there's that. And you asked how do you get to know God, and then you shared a little bit of your story, and it's like God wants all of you.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it takes coming to the end of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
like I did, and like you did,
absolutely, yep,
to have that shift.
Right.
There's a lot about God and that walk that to me is still unknown.
Yeah.
And in all of my studies and even reading the Bible and some of the characters in the Bible, like expressing through poetry and everything, nobody fucking knows. And I think that's the beauty, is that we don't know God, and we don't understand God, and why, like, pursue a connection to him and feel it. But like, this is something that I've been saying to myself recently, and this is for all across the board with life. Don't seek to understand, seek to trust.
Seek to trust.
If we like, the seeking to understand thing drove me mad.
Of course, yeah.
Not just seeking to understand God, but like,
everything.
Like this relationship and and this thing, and then why is this happening in my life? And I need to figure out my finances and build this business. And can I just trust what's here for me? Can I trust
so much more like a relaxed energy, just sitting in? Yeah,
there's peace in that.
There is peace in that,
and ultimately, that's what I feel a lot of humans are after, is that feeling.
Yeah, I love that.
So
okay, yeah. I think we talked about it, but how can women support men? Because I think we as women talk about, how can, it's all about us, right? But like, how can we shift and help them?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot there. Number one, ask him, what does he need?
Yeah.
And can you be willing to do whatever he's saying?
Yeah. Can
you trust him? Trust is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like every man that I have talked to who's gotten married, and I've had this conversation with him at least, and I've asked, like, when did you know? Why her? Mm-hmm. When did you know is always a little different. And then why her is something to the degree of, she's got my back.
Yep.
And so how can you convey that?
Right.
Trust and asking for what he needs, and also like loving up on him. If it's all about you, your energy is going inwards. Can you pour out and shower this other human with love? Oftentimes with a lot of the relationship coaching that I do, it's both people at a standstill. It's like, you're not hearing me. No, you're not hearing me. You're not pouring in. No, you're not pouring in.
Right.
It's like somebody's got to stop the insanity and go first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And trust it. And when you go first, all of a sudden it's naturally going to get reciprocated. So,
and that goes back to, do you want to be happy?
Think about the things that you're wishing he would do for you.
Yeah.
Can you do that for him?
Yeah.
Try it. And again, this isn't like this, obviously abusive relationships and things that aren't right go out of the window here, but ultimately it's going to lead you to more alignment.
Right. I just want to end on too, when people are starting to first date, obviously there's a lot of information on the internet of how to do things. Do you just believe in authenticity and like just being, because a lot of people are like, don't share too much, blah, 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 blah. What's your take on that? Like in the beginning stages of dating, like, do you express yourself fully and then be authentic and kind of put everything out on the table, or?
I'd love to. And I think that's great. I know people who do that and they're like, they basically interview the person and it's like, okay, cool. Now we can relax. And I'm like, whoa, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
And I also, it's human nature to show your best foot forward and show face. And, so as much as I'd say, just be yourself, it's like, yeah, you're going to be your best self.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to talk about the important topics.
Yeah.
But don't overthink it. Again, like you'll feel it when you feel it. And if something's coming up of, I want to talk about this thing, can you? Here's something really important.
Ooh, okay.
Talk about with the ladies. I know you want him to initiate.
Yes. Okay. Talk to us.
It's hot when you initiate too sometimes.
Okay.
So if he may not be initiating the conversation you want to have. Can you initiate it? He may not be initiating date night as much as you want to. Could you say, hey, block out this time, we're going on an adventure together? Like, like that's the roles shit.
Yeah.
That like, get rid of that. And so really, like, can you initiate from time to time? And it's not, don't put all of that expectation on him.
Right.
Because it's a lot.
Yeah. Do you believe in the beginning stages of like courting that the man kind of needs to take that lead, or no?
I can think back to a few of my relationships and they pursued me, so I'm like, and
did you love it?
Relationships. Oh, I loved it. Yeah. I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong. Like there's no right or wrong. And I also know people who are married and the woman is the one who pursued. Right.
Yeah. So I think that's what it comes down to, is there's really no right or wrong.
There's not.
Yeah. Love is wild.
Love does not make any sense, and it stimulates all the senses. I love it.
Love doesn't make any sense. I love that. Okay. So as we close, tell us about the courses that you have and like when they're like, because I know you have more than what you're launching now.
So I've got a course called Rebuild Trust. It's 6 weeks long, $97. It's pre-recorded video, so you go through it on your own time, but you also have access to me directly. And that is the guided process of like clearing stuff that's coming up from your, like trust issues from your past that are getting onto your relationships now.
Yes.
You'll have a better understanding of men and a deeper connection to your intuition and yourself and trusting yourself.
Love it.
And then there's that. You can find it in the link in bio.
Okay.
The masterclass that's coming up on the 17th. I'm very, very excited about that one. And then I'm announcing the next container, what that is at the end of the masterclass. So you'll have to tune into that. But that is a 6-month
is
deep
how
dive.
long?
2 hours.
2 hours. And do you have to be on the 17th for
No.
it?
So if you register, I'll send out the recording and everything.
Got it.
So if you can't make it, then.
Okay. Perfect. And it's 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
And live coaching at the end and everything. I have 10 pages on a Google Doc that I'm going to be presenting.
Okay.
And so I'm like making the slides for it all right now and stuff.
Okay. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
So I'm just trust, authenticity, just leaning in, relax, all the things. This was such a beautiful conversation. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank you.